Hello there, everybody, and welcome to Andrew's Thoughts. Before I get into the topic of this particular recording, let me give you a little bit of preview about what this series is. Essentially, I used to do a show on Spreaker, and my co-host couldn't do it anymore. So for a while, I did 45-minute shows by myself twice a week. And I stopped doing that for a long time because that really wasn't feasible anymore. That's a lot of airtime to fill by yourself. Usually you don't have enough material there without another person, and it just gets really taxing to prepare for hours on end for a 45-minute show with, I don't want to say no payoff because I do get enjoyment out of it and I enjoy sharing it with all you guys. But comparatively to the amount of work I was doing to prepare for it, very little payoff. So, what I've instead decided to do this summer is, as long as I'm by myself, do about 10 to 15-minute vignettes, sort of just whenever I feel like it, about a story that you either don't know about or that I have a different angle on. Essentially, just something sort of that hasn't been covered a lot. And I'm gonna just be doing this whenever the spirit moves me. And I thought that today I remembered a really great topic that I could do my first one on. And I actually posted about this on my author page if any of you follow it. If not, you definitely should. Andrew Goldstein, author of Growing Up Green, is the name of it. But I thought I would do this particular recording on Rick Reilly retiring. For those of you who don't know who Rick Reilly is, he is a writer, or I should say was a writer, at Sports Illustrated and then at ESPN. He did sports writing for, geez, I'm going to guess over 30 years now, maybe close to 40 years. Let's see, he said he started when he was 18, 19. Now he's late 50s, so yeah, close to 40 years. And he retired this past Sunday, and there's a little bit of controversy surrounding him. Basically, when he went to ESPN, he made a lot more money than he did at Sports Illustrated, and a lot of people criticized him for sort of mailing it in towards the end. Actually, the incident that prompted ESPN to sort of encourage him to retire is a piece that he ran back in March where he entirely, almost word for word, self plagiarized himself. Well, who else would you self plagiarize? But yeah, he lifted an earlier column that he'd done years before and essentially reran it word for word. And a lot of people have criticized him, regardless of whether he self plagiarized or not, for writing short 700 to 800 word columns only once a week, whereas other writers do thousands of words and are also on TV and doing a lot of stuff. The criticism was that he did comparatively little for how much money he earned. But that was one criticism. And another criticism is that he would repeat jokes, that he wasn't funny, and he tried to be all the time. And those are all very fair criticisms of him. I started reading Rick Reilly in fifth or sixth grade at Sports Illustrated. He was fantastic. But as he wore on at ESPN, all of those things are true. He did get a little bit self-aggrandizing. He repeated the same jokes. His humor was sort of tired. I'd be the first one to agree with all that. But I think ultimately, Rick Reilly was a fantastic sports writer. If you go back and if you read his piece on the Citadel, athletics at the Citadel University, or the Citadel College in South Carolina, if you look at his piece on Greg Norman's meltdown, I believe was at the US Open, nobody did human interest stories like Rick Reilly did. I mean, this is a guy who, no matter how small or sort of quirky the story was, he would find it and he would find a way to put an interesting spin on it. He wasn't the best humorist. I will be the first one to concede that, but he, when it comes to writing personal stories, human stories, stories about the way sports changed people's lives, there is nobody, and I mean nobody, better than Rick Reilly. And uh, that's sort of what I hope to accomplish through my book. If any of you don't know, I wrote a book called Growing Up Green, Living, Dying, and Dying Again as a fan of the New York Jets. Go check it out on Amazon.com. But that's what I tried to do in my book, capture the human element in sports. And I think it's a side of sports that doesn't get shown as often as it should. And I think that nobody showed it better than Rick. He wrote one article, I remember this was only a couple years ago, about this one special needs girl in Arizona that was getting bullied by a lot of her classmates. So the star quarterback at that high school started sitting with her at lunch, and eventually all of his teammates followed suit, and they were behind her and they supported her, and the bullying stopped, and Rick Reilly wrote this fantastic piece about it, and it was really very moving. And this is the kind of thing that Rick would write all the time, not just about famous athletes, not just about the people that lead the front page on ESPN.com every day, although he certainly did write about those people, but he found these everyday people, these sort of off the beaten path stories and places, and he'd go to them and he'd write fantastic pieces. And I remember that Rick Reilly back in the day is sort of what got me into sports writing. Just those small stories that he'd do that just absolutely moved me. And I think towards the end, when you could see that he was sort of repeating a lot of the same stuff that he did and taking similar angles and all that, I think that you could see that he was just burnt out on sports writing. I think that a lot of the criticisms that were levied at him were fair. I think that he definitely did some things that deserve some ridicule. Like, I don't know if anyone remembers, but he was doing a bit on the halftime show of a Pittsburgh Steelers Monday Night Football game, and Ben Roethlisberger was injured. I think it was Ben Roethlisberger, and the camera caught him trying to flag down a producer to make sure that he let people in the booth or on Twitter know that he was the one who reported it when it happened on national television. Everybody could see it. So there were some things and some jokes and some instances where he didn't really try as hard as he could that I think maybe he'd like to have back. And I think that over time he just sort of got burnt out on sports. But for what he did and for the type of story that he liked to write and for finding the small people in sports, nobody at all was better than Rick Reilly. And that will probably be true for a long, long time, if not forever. So that's my piece on Rick Reilly, and I am sticking to it. The guy was a real inspiration to me. So that's it for Andrew's thoughts on Rick Reilly. I might be doing another one of these vignettes later this week or next week. I don't want to commit to anything because I still have some scholarship applications to fill out, and who knows what's going to come up between this week and next week. But rest assured, I'll be trying to do one of these vignettes any time I can. And I might be doing actually a couple of them on the Ed O'Bannon case that's currently making its way through California courts about college football and whether players have the right to market themselves. Because with the World Cup going on, that is a crucial story that's not really getting a lot of play. So, and it could potentially change the face of sports as we know it, the face of college sports. So I definitely think that's worth a vignette or two. So I'll probably be doing those at some point in the next week or two. But for now, this has been Andrew's thoughts on Rick Reilly, and I am signing off. So long, everybody.